welcome to another episode of Little Give. I'm so excited to chat with our guest today. Go ahead, introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, tell us what you're all about.
Hi there, I'm Tina Djuretic. I come from Vancouver in Canada, and I'm an author. I've written 3 books, and my latest one is a children's picture book. It's called Tiamat in the Realm of Fire.
Awesome. Okay, so tell us, not everybody chooses to go with children's books. There's all different kinds of books out there. What made you want to do a children's book?
You know, that's actually a great question because it's kind of funny. First, I wrote these 2 adult books. I wrote a memoir, which you and I have talked about before I was on your show. And I followed that up with a book about how to heal childhood trauma, which tells you something about my memoir. And when I was finished that, I was like, okay, I think I'm done writing. Like, that's what I had to say. And I wanted to help women. And then some interesting things happened with my nieces, my nephews, my cousins' children. And I realized, no, I'm not done. I think that I want to pivot and start talking to children because there's so many things that children are facing today. And although it's so fun to write a children's picture book because it is super fun, you know, I got to work with an illustrator. That was new. I loved that. But I also wanted to write with purpose. And the first thing that I wanted to talk about was bullying, because I think that's a super serious problem that children are facing today. And again, it's also something I went through as a child. So it was a subject that was near and dear to my heart. And that's how I did that, or why I did that, I guess.
That's so necessary. I mean, bullying is a huge thing and it goes far beyond back. You know, when I was a kid, I was also bullied, but you got to go home after that. Now it's like there really is no home because of social media and all of that. You go home to get online and then there's more bullying there and sometimes even worse and more brutal than what you experience in person. So I'm so glad that you did that. And listening to you recount how you ended up writing a children's book reminds me, like, if I'm talking to myself, because I also had written 5 books that told my story and all that. And I thought the same thing. I thought, you know, I mean, I've said all I have to say. There's nothing else to do here. I'm done writing books. And then it came to me about writing a children's book about bees and education and storytelling. And so that's how I ended up doing the exact same thing and doing the children's book. And it was so fun. It was way more fun than the emotional dump I felt like I did with the other book. So I love that you're willing to share that journey and that you also decided to write another book, even though not about the things you had gone through in the past or a memoir, something that is near and dear to you that's going to help others. Tell us a little bit more about that and how you ended up with the name and all the ways you worked through writing this book.
So when I was a kid, I was bullied at home, right? Like my parents were the bullies. And when I went to public school, to be honest, I could have become the bully. I remember an incident as a child where a boy was mean to me, and I don't remember it exactly. So I don't know if he pushed me or just said mean words, but I kicked him and I kicked him hard. And I hurt him and he cried. And I remember at first going, ha ha, right? Like, I beat you. But then I felt really bad because he didn't stop crying. And I was like, oh my gosh, I really hurt this kid. And that taught me a valuable lesson. So I'm glad that I had the compassion and the empathy to understand I actually really hurt this child. But of course, I got home and told my parents what happened. And my father was like, you got in a fight at school? Or I don't even remember, on the playground, I think it was, did you win? Right? Like, that was all that mattered to him. And again, I was proud that I won because I pleased my father. But at the same time, I could have become a bully. And thank God that was the only time I ever hurt someone else. But that memory stuck with me enough that I thought about it. I was bullied at home, right? As I said, so didn't really want to write a story about that because I don't know that parents who bully their children are going to buy a book about that, right? It doesn't make sense.
True.
Right? Because, you know, if they're doing that, then they're obviously not in the best interest of the child to begin with. So I thought, you know what? Kids at school, they're bullied in so many ways, whether it's verbally or physically, or as you said, cyberbullying has become such a big issue. So I knew this was the first thing I wanted to talk about, and it's something I understood.
Mhm.
So, because at first, honestly, I don't have children, Cindy. So I thought, who am I to write children's books, right? Like, what do I know
No,
about kids? But
you
I
used
have a
to
lot
be
of,
one. That's
I
enough.
used, right? And I have a lot of nieces and nephews whom I love and who are going through issues that I'm
Mhm.
aware of. So then I thought, no, I can do this. I know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. And the idea for the dragon is because, first of all, I love dragons and I believe in all things mythical. And, call me crazy, but I believe in these things. And I know children do too. My niece, one of my nieces, one of the girls loves unicorns, the other one loves dragons. Shows you their personality differences. But I, ironically, was in a meditation, a guided meditation, where a woman did a meditation with Tiamat the dragon, because Tiamat, although spelled differently, is a real myth that comes from Mesopotamia. And she channeled this dragon and did this powerful meditation. And literally, I was in the middle of this meditation when I went, oh my God, this is the main character for my book. She's powerful, she's strong. I think her story has been turned into one that's not so great when the reality of the story is better. And I wanted to just bring that to kids and have a strong figure that could help them learn how to stand up for themselves against bullies. And dragons are just that. So that's where that kind of came from, the idea.
I love that. And what a beautiful way to share the message and then incorporate the storytelling part of it. So how did this come to you? Was it easy to just figure out how to position, all the characters in a way that really taught a lesson? Or was it a little difficult? Did you have freeze up moments? Tell me a bit about that journey, because having written my own children's book, it was very different than the other type of books. So I'm curious to have your comparison on how that journey went for you.
I found this a lot easier, as you said, to write that,
Yeah.
because especially when you're writing a memoir, and I know you come from domestic violence, and I come from a violent home that led to really narcissistic relationships. Writing about that is heavy, and I don't regret it because I healed so much as I addressed this issue in my own life. A childhood I forgot, by the way. So, my childhood started flooding back while I was writing. So it wasn't just about writing, it was like massive healing to do as well. But I knew it would help people. So I had such great purpose. And now with the children's book, it was a shift for sure, because first of all, my first book was like, what, 350 pages. This is like 36 pages. So you want to say what you want to say, but obviously in a simplistic way so that children understand, in a way that you're incorporating these beautiful lessons, but you're not preaching at children, because children don't pick up
Yes.
so they can learn lessons, right? They want to read a story. And I guess I started with what I wanted children to learn. I wanted to give them a tool. That was the most important part of it, was to say, hey, you're seen, you're heard. I also wanted to make sure that people also understand that bullies aren't always mean kids.
Yes.
Sometimes bullies, like me, came from a situation where they're being bullied and they don't know how to react any other way. Maybe it's bad parenting, or inconsistent even parenting, or they've been bullied, or they just haven't been taught how to deal with their anger or their trauma. And so teaching the children that were being bullied how to stand up for themselves, how to breathe through the situation, and how to use their voice. That was number one. And then making sure that children and parents also understand that not every bully is a mean kid. So sometimes we need to extend some grace to them and maybe show them compassion, something they're not used to find out, are you just a bully because you're mean, or are you maybe suffering as well? So that was like the storyline for me. And then I honestly went to the ocean every day and walked in the ocean and stuck my feet in the ocean and just said, inspire me. All of the elementals that live here, the fairies and the dragons and the unicorn, inspire me. And it came quite easily, I'm going to say, compared to the other books, right? And when you have something like that, like a novel to compare it to, it felt easier.
Hi, my name is Justin Clark, and I'm the president of the board of directors for Driving Single Parents, a 501c3 nonprofit serving the citizens of San Antonio and Bexar County, Texas. I'm here today to tell you a little bit about the great work that our organization is doing for the citizens of San Antonio. What you're about to see is just a few photos and videos of the way that we're changing lives for single parents in and around San Antonio, Texas. Our first giveaway took place in April of 2017, just one short month after the formation of our organization. John, a Bexar County resident, was the victim of a horrible drunk driver incident. He and his daughter survived the crash, and we were so proud to give our first car to this deserving family. Fast forward to 2020, a very difficult year for nonprofits. We were able to secure 4 vehicles for single parents in need. Our organization, including our board of directors, list of partners, and portfolio of people we've been able to help in San Antonio, continues to grow, and it's all thanks to donors and local community organizations that have helped us along the way. This giveaway took place in 2021 and shows that we continue to help single parents even after the struggles brought about by COVID-19. Because of limited funds and the overwhelming need, we at Driving Single Parents are incredibly selective with the people we help. Some are victims of domestic violence. Others had a spouse pass away tragically, or otherwise fell on hard times. These single parents show adversity in the face of challenge and aren't looking for a handout. We offer a hand up and help get them back in the driver's seat. Many of the single parents we help go on to graduate college, get promotions, get married, mentor others, and some have even been so touched by the gift we gave them that they have decided to join our board of directors to pay it forward and ensure the continued growth of our organization. If you would like to help our organization continue to grow and continue to help single parents in need in San Antonio, Texas, and Bexar County, Texas, we would really appreciate your support. Please visit us online at www.drivingsingleparents.org. Thank you.
Yes, and I thought it was like whimsical and fun, and it was like you got to let your imagination kind of run wild for a minute, and that was way different from the the other books that I had written as well. So totally with you on exactly how that felt and how just I just felt like it was so fun to write that children's book. It seems like we agree on that. I love the part when you talked about showing compassion for the bully and how you try to show that in your book, because it is really important. A lot of times it is a child who's coming from either someone's bullying them or violence in the home or domestic violence. It could be anything. And so most of the time, as you said, these kids are not just mean, they're just treating you how they've been treated. And so I love that you give that component in your book to really kind of shine a light on that, because that's one thing we don't want to do is just teach our kids that like, oh, those people over there and they're mean and you're the nice one. We want to say, wonder why they're like that. Maybe let's give some compassion. So I love that part. The other thing I love that you said was with the children's book, you really wanted it to be a book for parents to read too, that they could enjoy, because I feel like that's a huge component to a children's book. My 23-year-old daughter told me when I was writing my book, my children's book, that you want to write a book to where the parents love it because then they're more likely to read it to their kids. And that really struck me because I have 6 kids and 6 grandkids. And so I have those books that I read one time and then hid, so we never have to read it again. Have you ever experienced anything like that? And that was something you really put in to make sure that it was something the parents could enjoy as well?
Absolutely, because even whether it's movies or books, every kid latches on to their favorite, and sometimes the parents are like, "Oh my God, please not again!" Right?
Yeah.
So I think we all understand that when it comes to books. But because I was pivoting into children's books, the first thing I did is I actually went and listened on whether it was YouTube or wherever to other children's books authors to hear what they had to say, and that was a huge piece of advice: is that make sure the parents are in, like make sure it's also interesting to them. And another really interesting thing that I learned from that was make sure in today's world, people love these teachers' guides or parental guides that come with the book. So I didn't attach it inside the book because I wanted it to be something that I might change or adjust, right? So I created a free downloadable PDF file, which is on my website. It's called Gaia Loves Me, and which is will be the name of the series of the books. And I put some actionable things for the classroom and as well for parents. And while I was putting that together, I have a girlfriend who has a little girl. She's like 7, I think, 6 maybe. And she loves to write books. Every time I come over, she's like, let's write a book. And I'm like, I love this about you. And we write these little 6 or 8 page little books where she does it all. Like she only asks me to do the writing, but it's her story. So I thought she's the perfect person to send this to. So I sent the book to her, no illustrations, just I wrote it. And I wanted to see what she thought. And her opinions were so great because she's a kid, right? She's
Yes.
reading it. And her mom said to me, once we were finished reading the book, we literally talked about who a bully could be, how we would react if we had a bully. And it created this whole discussion. And part of that went into my like topics that could be for discussion with your kids, because kids know best. Kids tell you what they need. Maybe not always in words, but sometimes through behavior, mostly through behavior, really. So yeah, I really enjoyed doing that as well. That was like, take it further, right? Help teachers, help kids, help parents, because parenting is hard. And especially when it's your first kid, you don't always know the answers or how to help, right?
Yeah.
And if you were never bullied, you might not get it, right? So yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I think that's so cool that your book kind of opens up that conversation like, oh, well, what about this? And then you can kind of open the dialogue rather than, you're just on the way home from school, like, hey, you're being bullied, in your car, reading a book like this and then opening that conversation like, hey, what would you do in this situation? Or, just like you said, I think that could be really a great way for a parent to, kind of hear a little bit more than the kid would normally offer without the story. So I think that's a great idea. Awesome.
Thank you.
Yes. So you've done so much already. There's so many things that you have done and you're working towards. Tell us what's next for you.
Well, this first book that I wrote is part of a trilogy. So I'm following that for sure with 2 more books. And I wanted to keep the aspect of children who, again, have these issues, and using your voice is so powerful. And so the second book, there's going to be a dragon in each of the books, but a different dragon in each book. It'll be the same main little girl. The little girl, Aria is her name, little redhead, curly little girl. But the dragon will change in each book. And the first one is the realm of fire. In the second one, we're going to go into the ocean and we're going to learn about anxiety, because I think anxiety is another huge, huge topic that, people talk about, and kids are suffering from anxiety more than they ever did. I, and I'm sure you're the same, knew children with anxiety growing up, but not like it is now. Now it seems like every other child is suffering from anxiety. So I wanted to have a way to also help regulate breath and sort of overcome anxiety. So that will be the second book in the trilogy. I've already storyboarded it, so I just actually have to actually write it. But yeah, that's where I'm headed with that.
That's beautiful. And, kids obviously are experiencing a lot of anxiety, and so are adults. And so those adults are parents of kids, and then they don't know how to regulate their, anxiety. And so that can get passed on as well. And then not having the tools they need. So you having this new book that's actually going to show kids, hey, there is a better way, and there are things you can do to manage this. And I think that's just so beautiful. There's I think it's a Disney movie that's called Elemental, and it talks all about the emotions. And I just thought that was like so genius how that was written.
Yes. That could be even what inspired me to sort of go, yeah, kids can handle these kinds of ideas, because They're already suffering them. And like you said, they're going to grow up to be adults that are full of anxiety. And sometimes they're just watching, and, adults that didn't get help and they're full of anxiety, and they're learning from the situations that they're living, whether it's at school, whether it's at home, both, I would think. And
Absolutely.
let's help kids while they're young so that they can grow up to be healthy adults, right? Because bullied children often end up to be bullied adults, abusive relationships, verbal bullies. If you can't defend yourself as a child, you probably haven't learned how to do that as an adult. So let's get it while they're young so that we can create healthier. I wrote a book for adults, How to Heal, and now I want to help children not even become those adults. Like, let's give them tools, but in a fun and educational way.
Hi, my name is Andrew Fraley, and I believe that sometimes we all need a little bit of help. If you're in the San Antonio community and you need some legal help, call me at 210-725-4658.
Yeah, I love that. And I really feel like it's going to create a ripple effect, where those kids are going to grow up and be fully functional adults who know how to have the tools and know how to handle these stressful situations. And then they pass that on their kids and their kids. And then maybe eventually we're going to have a whole lot less anxious and children and lives. And then also not have so much bullying. Hopefully one day that'll also dissipate once these kids understand why these things are happening and how to combat them and not carry on those behaviors.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And both kids need compassion. Bullies come from somewhere, right? As we said, sure, there are children that maybe are going to grow up to be narcissists, and there's not a lot you can do for them because that happens as well. But most kids, they just need to learn where to place their anger, their frustration, their sadness, their pain.
Oh, I love it. You're doing so many big gives for these kids right now. And I just can't wait to see when your next book comes out. Definitely going to read it to my grandkids. I'm super excited about it. With all those big gives you're doing, I want to switch the conversation to my little give questions. Can you give the audience an example of a little thing that they could do in their community that might just be a little give on their end, but might make a big impact on the other side?
So I was thinking about this because there's a couple things that I always think about. One is food and the lack of food for our homeless people, and shade. Like, there's heat domes happening all over Europe. We had a heat dome in Vancouver a couple years ago. We just went through a heat wave, and I see our homeless people and even people that just live on the east side, if you will, the lack of trees, even just to get shade. So I love to go around, especially in the fall when the flowers are all dying, and I just take seeds. I just take dead flowers and I take all the seeds. It's totally free. And I just randomly scatter them in areas that can use some beauty. I especially do this with food. I love to plant apple trees everywhere. I just take an apple seed from an apple I ate and I just randomly plant it somewhere. And not in people's yards, right? I'm not trying to step in that way, but in public spaces, I think trees, fruit, vegetables, we need more of this. Less grass, more food.
I love that. That is a first that we've ever had on Little Give, but what a cool idea. I never would have thought of that myself. So thank you so much for sharing that with our audience. Can you give the audience an example of a time in your life where somebody did something little for you that might have been a little give on their end, but really made an impact on you and in your life?
Absolutely. My gosh, I've had so many of those in my life. I was living in Mexico for many years, and in 2005, Hurricane Wilma happened. Most people aren't aware of the damage that happened to Cancun because it was hidden. They kicked out the media, international media, and very cleverly did not allow any photos of the damage to get out. But it was actually a really, really bad hurricane that lasted for 3 days, and it was a Category 5. So my sister and my father and I and some people in our building, we stuffed as many people into a car as we could. We had to evacuate like everybody did. And I refused to go to an evacuation center. So I said, we're going to drive somewhere pretty and we're going to go on vacation is what we're going to do. And we ended up in a place, and we found the cheapest hotel we could find because, we were all broken. We didn't know if we were going to have a home to come back to or a job. And a couple of the people I was staying that were there were really, really broke. I mean, they were down to their last dollar. And the owners of this hotel were so kind to us, especially when they found out we were fleeing from the hurricane, that not only did they allow us to have our pets there, which wasn't allowed, but they gave us a massive discount to stay at their place. And then they basically opened up their home to us, which is they lived on the property. It was just a small little place, but they allowed us to use their laundry and their internet for free. And they allowed us to cook in their kitchen because they understood we couldn't afford to eat out all the time. And every night we sat and watched the news in Spanish, because again, no international news covered this, but the local news did. And I don't know if they understand just how much their compassion and their giving nature to allow us to use their kitchen and their laundry facilities all for free. It was a kindness that we needed in a time of extreme stress, as you can imagine.
Oh, I love that. What a beautiful story. And thank you for sharing that with us. And, it's one of the things I love so much about this show. We're doing this for 3 years now, and hearing all of these stories and seeing that there is so much kindness and love out there in this world. And there are people like that they don't make the news, and they don't get their stories shared as much as we should be sharing the good. The media tends to share way too much bad. So I love that story. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. What about nonprofits? Are there any nonprofits that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I still, even though I'm onto children's books, I'm a big compassionate person when it comes to survivors of SA. Don't know that I can say that on here. So I like to promote the SA Foundation in Vancouver because they're helping children and adults and women of child trafficking and adult trafficking, human trafficking, I guess is the word I'm looking for. And my heart always goes out to these people who have suffered in such a great big way, and they need so much help mentally, physically. Every aspect of their life is turned upside down, and they have to learn how to function in the world again. And I appreciate the people who help them, because it's a tough subject, and it's a tough thing to even help other people, because of course you feel the compassion for what they've been through, and you got to have a bit of a tough skin and yet a soft skin at the same time, right? To be able to assist.
Oh, thank you so much. These are so necessary, and it's really sad that they are necessary, but they are. So thank you for highlighting that on the show today. Thank you for talking with us today. Thank you for sharing all of your expertise. Could you please tell the audience where they can find out more about you, follow you on socials, and obviously get those books?
Absolutely. All three of my books, my adult books as well as the children ones, are on Amazon. And of course, if you are a library, which I love to promote libraries, or even a school, it's available on Ingram Sparks with, retailers discount. And my website is called sovereignandsage.com. And now it has a new page that is for the children's books. And there's an icon up at the top called Gaia Loves Me. This will be the umbrella of everything that I do for children in the future and in the present.
Oh, I love it so much. Well, thank you again for being on today. Everybody who's out there watching, please do go get those books, find out more about Tina and what she's up to next. Also, if that nonprofit really touched you, please go to their website, find out more. And if you can, make a donation. $1 or $5 multiplied by the many people we have watching this episode today can really make a huge difference to these nonprofits. Thank you so much for being on today, Tina, and we will see everyone again next week. If you enjoyed this episode of Little Give, head on over to our website. At littlegive.com, you'll be able to find all the information about previous episodes and past guests that we've had on. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on Little Give, all the information is also on the website. And if you have a nonprofit that you love and would like to recommend be on the show, all of that information is also on the website. We really appreciate you watching today, and we can't wait to see you again next week.